Welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're really plunging in, going deep into the, well, sometimes startling world of ancient beliefs and rituals. We're going to try and uncover the surprising logic behind practices that, might seem completely baffling at first glance.
Yeah, we're digging into a huge amount of ethnographic and historical stuff here, mostly from a really foundational work that's shaped how we understand human culture. We'll be exploring how early societies, basically trying to get some control over their world, created these really elaborate systems of meaning, all around the basics, farming, hunting, just surviving.
So get ready to maybe rethink what well-informed means, because we're about to unpack some truly fascinating connections, threads that run through human history across continents. Our mission today really is to find the whys behind some of humanity's most intriguing and, yeah, sometimes unsettling customs.
Okay, let's dive right in. Our journey kicks off in the fields. Early farming communities, they saw more than just crops, didn't they? Oh, absolutely. They saw a corn spirit, as the source calls it, and it could take on, well, lots of different forms.
Animal forms, right?
Exactly, animals mostly. So you get this really interesting mix of theriomorphic, that's the animal shape, and anthropomorphic, the human shape. Like in
Yeah.
North Germany, for instance, they'd say, the cock sits in the last sheaf.
Yeah.
And when they cut it, the reapers would actually shout, "We have caught the cock!" Then they'd make a little cock figure out of flowers, carry it home singing songs.
And it wasn't just the cock. I was reading about Silesia, where they'd say, the cat is caught when they finished mowing. And near Lyons, the harvest supper itself was just called the cat.
Right?
Even dressing up a real cat sometimes. Like in Braille scenes with the ribbons and flowers and corn, calling it the cat of the ball skin.
Oh.
Wild.
The goat, too. That was another big one. Near Straubing in Lower Bavaria, the guy cutting the last bit of corn, he supposedly got the corn goat or wheat goat. And in Mecklenburg, a woman binding the last sheaf might be called the harvest goat. Sometimes they'd even wrap her in straw, put a harvest wreath on her head, and wheel her home in a wheelbarrow.
It's quite a performance.
It really is. Which makes you ask, why these animals? Why a cock, a cat, a goat?
And it gets even more intense, right? The wolf showing up.
Yeah, the source mentions the wolf is made up in human form and dressed in clothes, brought home on the last wagon, everyone cheering.
And then there's the Roman October horse, a horse sacrifice at harvest. Its tail and blood, seen as the chief parts of the corn spirit's representative, were rushed off to the king's house, even fighting over the horse's head between villages, nailing it to a tower sometimes.
It's really striking. And what seems to be happening, according to the analysis, is a shift in thinking. First, the spirit is seen as immanent, like actually in the corn. Later, it becomes more like an owner or a lord of the corn who just lives on it. It shows this evolving relationship with the divine in their world.
Okay, so from the fields, harvesting the spirit. The next logical step seems to be the feast. It wasn't just about getting the harvest in, it was about partaking.
Precisely. Partaking. Many of these animal spirits, once they were, embodied or represented, were then killed and eaten sacramentally. The accounts cover everything from cocks and cats to goats and oxen, all consumed by the harvesters. Even the pig, which plowmen apparently ate in the spring. It fits the pattern.
So the core belief is, by eating the divine animal, you take in its power.
That's the idea. You absorb its very essence, its vitality. And if you couldn't use the actual animal, sometimes bread or dumplings were made in the animal shape. Kind of a substitute, but with the same goal.
That Athenian bouphonia, the murder of the ox, sounds incredibly vivid.
It really does.
They kill the ox, cut its throat, everyone eats the flesh. Then they stuff the hide, sew it up, and yoke it to a plow.
Yeah, almost like saying, okay, the corn god is back, ready to work his own land again. It's a powerful piece of theater.
And in Guinea, 2 oxen killed every year for a good harvest.
And the detail about them needing to weep. That's fascinating. They thought it was a rain charm.
A rain charm, okay.
And the tails, believed to hold the spirit's virtue, had to be cut off in one go. Then the chiefs ate the flesh. It really makes you wonder why these specific, often dramatic and to us, maybe slightly disturbing rituals, especially the eating part.
Yeah, it's definitely not just about getting calories. And maybe the most intense example comes from the Aztecs.
Oh, definitely.
Twice a year, making dough images of their god Huitzilopochtli, kneading it with seeds and, well, the blood of children. That's startling.
It is.
Then a priest throws a dart into the image's chest, calling it killing the god, so that his body might be eaten. The priest eats the heart, every man gets a piece.
Well, it shows the kind of desperate measures people felt they had to take, driven by fear, wanting control.
And if you pull back, look at the bigger picture, the underlying primitive belief, as the source terms it, is pretty clear. Consuming an animal, or even a person, meant you acquired their qualities. Physical, moral, even intellectual ones.
Right, like the Creeks and Cherokees believing eating venison made you faster and smarter.
Exactly, but eating bear or pig, clumsy animals, might make you dull. They genuinely believe this transmission occurred.
And the Darfur people eating raw liver, because
Yeah.
it was the seed of the soul.
Yeah, eating it literally enlarged their own soul, in their view. But this also worked in reverse. Sometimes you didn't eat sacred animals, like the pig for the Egyptians, because direct contact with the sacred, with that power, was seen as dangerous. Too much power. Okay, so the divine is powerful, sometimes dangerous, often eaten. But what about animals they just hunted all the time? Not for sacrifice, but just for food and materials. How did they manage that relationship, killing something potentially divine every day?
That's where you see this really interesting mix, a kind of blend of worship and, well, practical killing. Take the Ainus. They're famous as bear worshippers, right? But they hunt and eat bears constantly. It's a staple.
So how does that work?
Well, the worship part often happens after the bear is dead. Lots of apologies, bowing, elaborate respect shown to the carcass. They'd even shout things like, "We kill you, O bear, come back soon into an Ainu," as they were killing it. It sounds like a flat-out contradiction to us.
It really does. Kill it, then worship it. How do you square that circle?
Well, from their viewpoint, the savage viewpoint, as the source puts it, it's not contradictory at all. They believe animals are intelligent, they have feelings, they can take revenge. So to make sure the bears keep coming back, keep letting themselves be caught, you have to show respect. You apologize. You make excuses. The Kamchatkans would apparently blame the Russians for killing the bear and ask the dead bear to tell other bears how well it was treated so they wouldn't be scared off.
Blame the Russians. That's resourceful.
Isn't it? And the Canadian Indians believe the beaver's soul would check up on its bones later. If the bones were disrespectfully given to dogs, other beavers would refuse to be caught. It's all about maintaining this respectful, kind of transactional relationship.
Okay, that makes sense. And this idea of respect, of managing consequences, that leads us to the scapegoat concept, doesn't it? Not just absorbing qualities, but actively transferring bad stuff away.
Exactly. It builds on that logic. If you can physically transfer a burden, like picking something up and moving it, maybe you can transfer an abstract burden too, like sickness or bad luck or sin.
So simple acts, like hitting someone with leaves to cure epilepsy and then throwing the leaves away.
That's the basic principle in action. Or the Malagasy transferring misfortune onto a chicken or a plant and just chucking it, getting rid of it.
And this wasn't just personal, right? Whole communities did this.
Oh, yes. It scaled up significantly. The Minahasa people in Celebes, if they had an epidemic, they'd actually abandon their village temporarily. Then men wearing masks, carrying swords and brooms, would charge back in, yelling, hitting things, basically trying to physically drive the devils out. Then priests would come with holy fire, purifying the houses, a full-on spiritual house cleaning.
Wow. And the Inca Situa festival in Peru, another really powerful community example.
Definitely. Every September, to get rid of disease, they'd fast, then rub this paste again, kneaded with the blood of children onto themselves and their doorsteps.
The child blood element keeps reappearing.
It does, suggesting a belief in its potency, perhaps its purity. Then, 4 Incas, acting as messengers of the sun, would run out of the city with lances. Everyone else would shake out their clothes, shouting, "Let the evils be gone," just physically casting them off. Again, very intense.
It sounds like these weren't just random, spur-of-the-moment things. They were often annual, tied into the calendar.
That's absolutely crucial. These big purges, these expulsions of evil, often happen at specific times, the start of a new year, or key farming moments like harvest or planting.
Why then?
Well, the thinking seems to have been fairly logical within their framework.
Yeah.
Times of climatic change often meant higher death rates, more sickness. They attributed this to demons or evil influences being more active. So you had to clear the decks, get rid of the bad stuff before starting a fresh cycle, a new year, a new growing season.
Like that Iroquois Festival of Dreams, men in animal skins, scary masks, running around making noise, scattering embers and ashes, all designed to drive out evil spirits.
Precisely. A periodic, necessary cleansing. And interestingly, these purges were often linked with periods of general license, times when normal social rules were relaxed or even turned upside down.
License? Like what?
Well, in Guinea, before they hunted the devil out of town, there was an 8-day period of lampooning liberty. Basically, you could say anything about anyone. The Holes in northeastern India had a similar harvest festival where apparently people felt overcharged with vicious propensities and just needed to let off steam. a kind of collective pressure release valve.
Okay, so you have these annual purges, sometimes linked with letting off steam. How does the dying god concept fit in with the scapegoat idea? Why would a god carry away sins?
That's where things get really complex and interesting. The theory presented suggests it's a merging of two distinct but related customs. One is the idea of killing the god, whether represented by an animal or a person, before it gets old, to preserve its divine vitality for the community. Keep the magic strong, basically.
Right, prevent the power from fading.
Exactly. The second custom is the annual expulsion of evils. We've just talked about the scapegoat idea. So when these two practices combined, the figure who was already being ritually killed, the dying god, became the natural vehicle to load up with all the community's sins and misfortunes before being sent away or destroyed.
Ah, I see. So, like the Roman figure, Mamurius Veturius, the old Mars, a man dressed in skins, beaten with rods, driven out of the city in March. He was both things, a vegetation spirit being renewed and the scapegoat carrying away bad luck.
Precisely. That's the interpretation. His expulsion served a dual purpose, renewing the god's power for the coming season and physically carrying the community's problems away, often symbolically driven towards enemy territory.
And the Greek human scapegoats, sometimes chosen because they were ugly or deformed.
Yes, they were fed special foods, beaten sometimes specifically on the genitals, which was thought to release fertility for the crops, and then finally killed, burned, or stoned, often during harvest festivals like the Thargelia. But it's really important to grasp the fear or the disgust wasn't aimed at the person. It was directed at the evils they were carrying. They were just the vessel.
So wrapping this up, from seeing a spirit in the last sheaf of corn, maybe as a cat or a goat, all the way to ritually killing a person or an animal to carry away a whole community's sins. It's clear these ancient societies had this incredibly interconnected view of everything, the natural world, the spiritual world, survival itself.
Absolutely. These weren't just random bizarre acts. They were complex systems, deeply logical within their own worldview, designed for survival, rooted in profound ideas about renewal, about transference, about the cycles of life, death, and rebirth.
They really show us that basic human need, don't they? The drive to find meaning, especially in misfortune, to try and control the uncontrollable and to sort of purge collective anxiety. It's a powerful force.
It really is. Enduring across cultures and time.
In this deep dive, it's shown how the very idea of the divine, whether in an animal or human form, could be celebrated, eaten, and even forced to carry our burdens, all for the sake of ensuring prosperity, ensuring well-being. It's quite ingenious in a way.
And what's truly fascinating, I think, is how these ancient rituals, with all their very specific details and reasons, how they might still resonate today, perhaps underpinning some of our own cultural habits or psychological patterns in ways we don't even realize.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? What other echoes of these deep, ancient human needs and beliefs might still be shaping our world right now in ways we just don't see? Something to think about, perhaps, as you go about your day.